Industrial actions by health workers amidst COVID-19 with its devastating effect has continued to stare us all in the face as Nigeria witnessed paralyzing hospital activities and depriving citizens access to affordable health care across the country. The latest being the ongoing industrial action embarked upon by the Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors, NARD. The doctors, amongst other things, are demanding the domestication of the Medical Residency Training Act passed by the National Assembly, which seeks regulation of the residency training of doctors for Nigeria to produce specialists and also payment of the COVID-19 hazard allowance and proper placement of doctors on the 2019 adjusted salary scale. The federal government and the resident doctors have had dialogues towards implementation of these demands captured in a signed memorandum of understanding. Yet, the doctors on the 2nd of August 2021 deemed it fit to proceed on indefinite strike. In response to this, the Minister of Labour and Employment, Senator Chris Ngige, who is the conciliator-in-chief of the federal government to broker truce with the resident doctors, called on NARD's leadership to brief its members of government efforts with a view to calling off a strike. This move, however, did not yield much result as NARD went on to embark on this indefinite strike. And this has pushed the Minister of Labour and Employment to approach the National Industrial Court of Nigeria to seek redress. Is this the best option or the last option, perhaps? And where should both parties shift grounds for citizens to access healthcare, most importantly, amidst COVID-19? Nigeria Today will be taking a look at this strike, as well as its effects and the way forward. Welcome to the program. My name is Blessing Abu. Yes. If you just tuned in, the program is Nigeria Today, and I'd like to welcome part of the discussion, looking at the NARD strike and charting the way forward. The Chairman House Committee on Health, Honorable Yusuf Tanko Sununu, is representing the Orisheng Ngeski Federal Constituency of Kebbi State. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
In the course of the program, my other guests will be joining you, find out. But then, let's set things straight. This strike, amongst several others, have been coming at different times. Sometimes last year too, in the midst of it, in the heat of the pandemic, the association had to go on the strike. After a while, it was called off or it was suspended to actually accommodate some things. Are they justified again this time around, Honorable?
Well, thank you very much for inviting me to this very important program. You see, the justification is like when you use the word equality and equity, which means different, it's subjective, and it's also time frame in terms of application. There are where you have to display equality, and at certain situation, if you display equality, it may not be appropriate. You must display equity. So those are the issues. So it says justification, whether it's right or wrong, may not be seen, but only one has to look at the circumstances surrounding the strike. And then if we try to equate it in terms of right or wrong, we may find it very difficult in terms of reconciliation. As such that when we say yes, they gave the reason for negotiation for the strike, and which we have been looking over time. But unfortunately, the implementation of all the resolutions followed a snail pattern of movement. And that's why we could not achieve much in terms of outcome that necessitated to go into another strike. But quite all right, I am one of the people that believe that something has been achieved. I always try to frown at people that will say, so far nothing was achieved.
Okay, so let's find out, so far, what has been done in the light of this. If they will go on strike at all, it will be that nothing was set has been achieved from what was set out in the actual instance from last year. So let's know where we are that is still making them to still insist they must go on the strike.
Well, from last year, if you say from last year, actually I would say that there are other areas, allowances that generally not only doctors that involve both health workers that came with demand at National Assembly, of which we have intervened, and I will tell you that over 4 billion 980 million was paid as an arrears of salaries and this thing, to both doctors and other health workers. That's a very huge amount that also have achieved that.
So
You also mentioned
for all frontline health workers actually.
no, I'm not coming. That's other allowances, not COVID hazard allowances. You also know that you talk of domestication of our medical residency program. Hitherto to our intervention at National Assembly, the act has been assented to, but however, the financial backing was lacking. And then it is our intervention during the 2020 supplementary budget that we have introduced a sum of 4 billion that was used to start or commence the payment of medical residency training fund, which from there we also try as much as possible to have a budget line created. But however, the payment has some issues here and there, and
such as
the not everybody that is expected to get the money has gotten, and then some also few people were also wrongly paid, of which all those corrective measures have been put in place. So that has also been achieved, and then we have succeeded in creating a budget line that we want to maintain. And even if you also know that part of the act also says that you should have an online data of all resident doctors in Nigeria. And you know, when you are talking of data in Nigeria, it's a serious issue. We have paucity of data that are purely documented. Even when you look at the basic data like number of deaths, births, and others data, we don't have it. But because of our intervention, we insisted, as provided for in the Act, that National Postgraduate Medical College of Nigeria must have an online data of all resident doctors in Nigeria. And as today, those who are in active residents is the only one that we can say that we have their data online that people can easily scroll and see. Because the National Postgraduate College, we made it mandatory that they must obey the Act, and that has been done. It's also another milestone. Even the domestication in terms of who is responsible for the issue of who raised money, who raised the voucher that can be transmitted to the Minister of Finance. Ab initio, that was not settled. But it's our intervention that we have recognized that the Act mandated the regulatory role of medical residency training to National Postgraduate Medical College, and therefore the mandate of preparing what is ever is needed for the residents is now being handled by the National Postgraduate Medical College. Others were incessant dismissal of resident doctors or taking them into appointment without due processes, which also the Act has mandated that it's only the National Postgraduate College that can tell a resident doctor when to exist or when to enter based on the criteria of the college. If you recall, one of the previous strike was, one of the demand was for the University Teaching Hospital to absorb the resident doctors that were unjustly terminated in terms of their appointment. And that has also been affected. All the 20 or 22 people that were sacked are not in line with the prohibition of the Act were also recalled back, and they have continued to do their own, to continue with their residency program. So not only that, if you look at the issue of the COVID allowance has also been another decision. So far, the federal government has paid the 3-month, part of the 6 months it has agreed. And then other issues have also been the distance. So if you look at over time, we won't say that nothing was achieved. The other also, as part of the demand of resident doctors, was infrastructural improvement in our facilities.
And they justified over that, and they justified even in asking for infrastructural improvement.
Yes, that's what I'm trying to tell you what we have achieved so far. And so in terms of infrastructural activities, you know, when you look at when the COVID came into the country, as at that time we are only proud of 3 to 4 laboratories that can in any way diagnose COVID-19. As of today, we have over 120 or nearly 140 public health-based laboratories that can do that. And then even to go ahead, the NCDC has tried to improve the manpower of private hospitals that we now have many of those private facilities that also can comfortably do COVID-19. So, and we have also increased in terms of number of the ICU we have in hospital, which hitherto was distant. Also, if you look at the second wave, it came with the issue of higher demand for oxygen in terms of this. And this has also been the government has moved forward in terms of providing and renovating so many oxygen facilities in our tertiary hospital so as to avoid the overdependence of supply in the market so that it can be produced within the hospital. That saves cost. It also improves in terms of generating manpower to many subspecialties in the hospital. So a lot has been achieved. But however, I quite agree. There are some areas that we have a snail-paced progress, and that is the issue that led to this strike. It's not that even now we have not achieved so much. We have achieved so much in terms of discussion when the House intervened.
So where do you think, Honorable, that the resident doctors are kind of overreaching in their push to still take every one of us by the jugular?
Well, it's just because, something that you say, a trust is very important. In my language outside, they say they used to say that you cannot pour sand, your millet on the floor and pack it completely. So you understand. So they have the issue of trust that over time they have been listening to the call of stakeholders, intervention of speaker, intervention of the Senate president, intervention of so many elders within the country. But the slow pace that what have agreed could not be achieved on a timeline basis, and they are also becoming always recurrent issue. So the leadership and the entire membership of the NAD now become so adamant that they have lost that trust that they can give. Okay. So that even though we have agreed on something, but they believe that yes, if we have forgotten, immediately they suspend the strike, papers will be dumped until when there is notice for another strike that can be, we can now start to initiate a process. So and it's based on that, this thing. But no matter how is I will agree, yes, things are going like that. But now there is a new approach in the fact that we are tracking the process of what we have discussed on timeline basis. And then we have also appealed on the NAD and its leadership to consider the time we have in. Yes, equality demand that they should be paid at this thing and do equity. But in terms of equity, they will also look at what is happening within the country. The country is facing pandemic. It's also facing...
Yes, in the midst of it all, the citizens are suffering whatever it is that is a burden both from the government side and also the striking doctors. Well, the devastation, what it is doing to the entirety of the healthcare delivery system is what we're about to see. We'll take this break to bring you Voxpop from the views from the streets, as we call it, and then we'll continue with the discussion, especially now that the Minister of Labour and Employment is approaching the National Industrial Court to actually seek redress in this direction. We'll be right back after this break.
As for me, I'm a victim of it, of them not being in hospital. Last time I went to treat my child in the hospital, could you believe that I was unable to because they are not there in the hospital? And when you go to a private hospital, they will charge you, the bills they give you is very, very high, which we, as those of us that hustles, will not afford to pay.
Well, I understand that things are not really easy on doctor's side. They need to be paid because it's a humanitarian work, but they also have to consider the patients that are dying too.
Especially to the government, they have to look into the welfare, the cries of the resident doctor who are taking care of the manpower of this nation. Their service is quite important. It's imperative to the nation at large.
The strike of the resident doctors is a very serious issue. As you can see, most people cannot afford to take their sick ones to private hospitals. And it's a pathetic story. You will see some emergencies, they will come into the hospitals, they will reject them. They will not accept them because they don't have enough money for them to accept them into treatment in private hospitals.
I've been in this hospital for a while and I've seen several people turned down because they felt there is no space. This place is congested. A lot of people that are in critical conditions have to be referred to some other hospitals. So it was as that. One thing that brings us together, health, It concerns both the rich and the poor, the young, the old.
This is a very uncalled for strike. There's nothing negotiation cannot achieve. So I still urge them to please reconsider the strike and look at the suffering masses of the Nigeria.
Thank you for staying with us. The program is Nigeria Today, and we're taking a look at the ongoing industrial impasse between the federal government, well, that is the National Association of Resident Doctors, and we also know that the federal government, through the Labour Ministry, is seeking redress at National Industrial Courts. What is the implication of this on the whole negotiation table, as well as other issues? Honorable Sununu.
Well, the implication is that the government has gone, as you mentioned, the government side is in the court, and then there was a sitting, and there was also an adjournment to 15th of September. So it means from the date the judgment was passed, we have another 1 month within which the case will be listened to, and 1 month as far as healthcare are concerned. Though it's in the court, so one cannot really dictate to court how it goes about it.
But okay.
But what I just want to say that while it is there, there's also no law that says that out of court settlement is not encouraged. You understand? Even partners at times call even direct couples to go outside and settle themselves and come back after some days. And I think the time period that has been given by the court is to enable those parties to look at the plea by Nigerians, just as you have mentioned now. We've heard from so many people calling on the government part and others calling on resident doctors to consider the situation of Nigeria and see the reason why they should quickly settle these things out of court, so that by the time 15th September arrives, it's only for the judge to throw away the case for the fact that it has been settled. So that plea is also very, very important that people are doing. And that's also what we keep on saying. And actually, if you listen from all the people that have talked so far, you know that really there are reasons why we should reason with the situation. If you look at Nigeria now, you look at the typical delivery of healthcare in Nigeria, almost 70 to 75% of couples, families have to put their hand in their pocket and then pay for their healthcare services. And this is against the concept of universal health coverage, which says that no family should suffer undue hardship in an attempt to restore a lost health. And I'll just take, for example, now one of the parent was saying that he couldn't go to other hospitals because he could not afford the exorbitant charges. So it means if he's to go there, he's likely to push himself into untold hardship. And that is also against the universal concept of this thing. So that's one. Two, if you look at the economy, the naira is always going down. The cost of drug is on the high side. Consumables are on the high side. All these things, and also the per capita income of average individuals is also not that good enough. And now, if you also look at it now, the whole insecurity. In some areas, you find that people were sent out of their houses. They have lots of healthcare challenges. They have other issues. Some may need to go to hospital because they are not based in their place with so many internally displaced persons. All this will add to the issue when it comes to healthcare. The challenge is also enormous. You also look at the issue of what we are now. We are bottling from outbreak of cholera. And that is also another cost.
Lassa fever is the cholera is there.
And then third wave of the COVID-19 is also hitting hard on the country. And generally the economy, because of the overall implication of COVID-19 to world economy, you find that even the externally...
So how do we get everyone to shift ground? Because the same issues you've mentioned is affecting even the resident doctors. They form of almost 40% of the medical workforce. And also there are other attendant personnel attached to them as well, who are dependent on them as well. So how do we get everyone to shift grounds to actually do well for the healthcare delivery system for the nation?
I think it's a win-win situation or give and take situation that we're going to face. And that's only the way we can provide our way out. while the will try as much as possible to ensure that the executive on their own part, they fast-track the issues that we can easily address so that we can address some few minimum demands of NAD. And also to call on NAD not to insist that they must have to get 100% of their demand. You understand? But let us be seen to act. They knew that there are areas that can be solved now, and let's see as we are intervening, and we have keep on talking to the executive to quickly do what can be done in the shortest possible time. So that if we have achieved, at National Assembly, we have agreed on 5 to 6 issues. Now, if we can get 1, 2, 3 out of those issues that we have discussed, then we have a cause now to say, NADCOM, look, these 5 out of 6, we were able to get 50% of it.
Okay, let's be definite now. Of course, you're on the committee for health, and as a lawmaker yourself, you know where it hurts your people, whether in Birnin Kebbi or generally with your colleagues on a particular committee and even on the National Assembly generally. Now, we've met some of the demands. You itemized some earlier. Now, as a matter of urgency and priorities, what would you want to speak to, at least as a member of the National Assembly?
Well, a member of National Assembly, as I mentioned, and that's this thing, because it's sitting more on us than any other person.
Sure.
If I tell you that as a representative of people and be voted for by the people, if you represent your people, you know that you are always the first point of call. Now, I can be called. I have somebody who is in one private hospital. The family cannot pay. Even the doctors can call me, Honorable, please do something. The bill is gotten this in our services. It's almost getting to a deadlock because we can't continue to run the services. So members are always they are being pushed so much that it is even hitting harder on us than any other person. Let me tell you one thing, just to see. We have several outbreaks of cholera in some constituencies, in some villages of my constituency.
Several states of the Federation.
In the last 1 week, I knew how much I've expended in terms of taking drugs to my constituency that will address immediate need. Because even if you don't have money to do, you are called that you have lost 5 people, you have lost 7 people, then you'll be touched by that your human feeling that let you fast track what you can do to see how you can send something to them. So if you look at all these things, so that's why as I mentioned earlier, is that we want the government to fast track in doing the minimum it can, and then for not to accept that the minimum that has been done is good enough to allow us continue to negotiate and get the remaining aspect of their strike. Definitely, everybody know. When you say you agree to negotiate, in negotiation you find a midpoint. And each and everybody, as you mentioned, you must shift ground so that we can achieve reconciliation. And that reconciliation now must be laced with trust so that everybody will feel that when things are agreed, it will be implemented. And when we achieve that, I assure you things will we get. And then definitely in the last 48 hours, I know there are so many progress, and I'm sure even the not president who can attest to that. Even this morning, I have to call him because what we wanted to achieve, we could have achieved it in the next 2-3 days. But because of certain issues, of which I've communicated to the NAD, we couldn't progress to any level to say that, look, expect something in the next few hours. And I think by the time we address those issues, the confidence will be restored and this. And then the other issue is that I think it is also high time and right time for the Federal Ministry of Health to go back and do a stock-in checking of all the problems within the Ministry of Health that involve virtually all the professional bodies that are under the Ministry of Health.
Exactly, because even MMA and the other dental were threatening to go on strike as well.
It must be taken as holistic approach. And then let's see how we can come together in a normal temperature and pressure without any strike, so that we can agree on what can be done. If we agree on that with the association, then definitely we may this thing. Because the issue why sometimes when you go into negotiation under strike, it means you are under pressure to see that services is restored to the people.
And we don't need that pressure.
You may not have done your internal check to find whatever you are going to agree to, you can't meet that minimum demand.
Okay.
So I think
Chairman,
it's
under
pressure that we should do that.
Oh, okay. We do not want that pressure, actually. So we want to be sure that every one of you will be on the same page and gets the health status right even this time around. We appreciate you, Honorable Yusuf Tanko Sununu, representing Yori Sheng Ngeski Federal Constituency of Kebbi State. Thank you very much for coming on the program.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. And also appreciate you for joining us on Nigeria Today. It shows live every weekday at 7:30 in the evening. You can watch this edition as well as other editions online, youtube.com/NTA News 24 Hub. My name is Blessing Abu. Thank you for watching.